welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Ciriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Kern. How you doing, Daniel?
You came prepared today, Chris.
Well, you know,
that's how I'm feeling. Wow.
It's the last week where these resources are available, so you got to take advantage of it.
That for sure. It's effective June 21st, I believe, in the report. Yeah, we got a decent amount to get into today. A couple things happened since our last show, and I guess we should probably get into them because they are a little bit important. Major League Baseball officially announced the report for foreign substances in the game, such as spider tack, such as sunscreen, such as rosin, such as pine tar. They banned everything virtually. Like the only like grip substance that pitchers can use, if you could even call it that, is rosin from the rosin bag that's on the mound, and that's it, which is kind of brutal, but that's what we're looking at right now. This is effective on June 21st. Today is the 17th, but really no one is using it now. But we're going to have to see what happens, because this is way more than what was necessary.
Yeah, this has been a story since before the season started. They announced, I think it was like March 23rd, that they were going to look at some baseballs, and then it's turned into the enforcement of everything. Every kind of foreign substance possible is now being looked at, and yeah, it's people are outspoken about it, and everyone seems to have an opinion on this. I mean, where do we even start here?
I want to start with the just getting this out of the way. This is Major League Baseball's failure once again. They knew, and I feel like there was some strategy to this, because Major League Baseball, the owners, the executives, the higher ups, they would like to do anything within their power to try to make the Players Association look bad. That is number one on their agenda. We've known this for a year now. Or at least it's been public for a year since the labor negotiations. The league, the front offices will stop at nothing to try to demean the Players Association of Major League Baseball. And I feel like that's what's happening here, because we knew, back in 2018, Trevor Bauer trying to be the whistleblower against the sticky stuff scandal with the Astros, and how their spin rates were going up unnaturally. And they could have done something about it then, but they waited until the year before the CBA expired to try to out the players, to be like, oh, look at the players, they're doing all this, they're being, they're cheating, that's not okay. And I mean, the league let this happen because Trevor Bauer is the perfect example of, like, he's calling it out. So he realized that nothing was going to happen, so he started doing it. And this is like, before, this should be the number one takeaway from this entire thing, is this is Major League Baseball's failure. For the second time in 3 years, they had a scandal on their hands that they knew about for years, that they didn't do anything about until they absolutely had to.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if it was a thing that they felt like they had to do. It was just a thing where they could, get players pitted against each other the year before the CBA expired, as you said. And yeah, it wasn't a thing where, like, the Athletic report came out like the Houston Astros thing. I think MLB addressed it before anybody, outside of some minor inklings about, like, I guess, Trevor Bauer's spin rate, but there wasn't some huge bombshell. But they decided to to make this a thing. And then the article started coming out about all this. I think it was something that players wanted to keep hidden for the most part. But yeah, now it's now they're going to be enforcing it. Uh, do we want to talk about the fact that it's all substances?
Yeah, I think we should because that's probably the worst part of all this. I think we can both agree that like stuff like spider tack has no place in the game. Like it is very clearly a foreign substance that is used for performance enhancement. Like the
Hmm.
sole purpose of spider tack is to increase spin rate and to therefore increase swings and misses and to get you paid. That's why Garrett Cole got $324 million in free agency.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and for the record, I think Garrett Cole will be fine without foreign substances. I think Trevor Bauer is in a much worse spot between the two of them. Um, but time will tell what the results look like there. But a lot of pitchers picked up spider tack, particularly probably because of Garrett Cole. I think that was an inspiration. It's like, okay, this guy just got this guy just got his great grandkids college funds handed to him. So why don't I start picking this up if the league's not going to do anything about it?
Right. Exactly. Um, so yeah, something that really opened my eyes about foreign substances affecting spin rate was there was this guy who actually did an experiment, and I know it's only one guy, and it's only and it was only one, I guess, experiment that he did on his own with a
Was
Rapsodo,
this
but
like the King of JUCO guy on
yeah,
Twitter?
Eric Sim did it, and it was, and you don't have to watch the whole video. It's like an 8-minute video, but basically the with no foreign substances, he was around 1900 RPM. Sunscreen and rosin, it was a jump of maybe 150 RPM, and then it was surprising because pine tar actually had a major effect that was up there with spider tack, but spider tack took it took the top spot in terms of increased spin rate. It was like 370 something RPM
A joke.
uh, that was added, and it was funny because there was no music when he was throwing with the spider tack, and you could hear you could hear the ball just ripping out from the spider tack. It was pretty crazy, but that's that's all the like experimentation that I've seen on it, because this doesn't people don't really want to publicize this. Uh, but I feel like, back to the point, sunscreen and rosin, I feel like should have just stayed the entire time, because that's kind of the most natural way you can go about things.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen like we've already seen what could happen in with the adjustments between going from using sunscreen, using rosin to nothing, and we'll get to that later, but I mean, it really does seem like, getting a grip on the baseball shouldn't be a crime. That shouldn't be punishable. And like, I mean, I think it's kind of proven that like, using sunscreen and rosin and maybe even pine tar, like it doesn't necessarily enhance performance. Like it, and people don't use it for performance enhancement. It's used to not hit the batters and cause injuries.
Right, yeah. Yeah, sunscreen and rosin seems to be the safe just the safe option, make sure that uh just to make sure that they have control on the ball. But yeah, yeah, spider tack, obviously, as you mentioned before, seemed to be just the ultimate performance enhancer, and then whatever was scientifically designed for grip, that seems to also be a performance enhancer.
Hmm.
And pine tar, I think, is widely looked at as another thing where it's just kind of safe to keep everybody safe. But uh, honestly, in that video, and I know it's only one experiment, but there was like a 350 RPM jump with just pine tar, which maybe it was a different brand of pine tar or something, and maybe it's not the same pine tar you see on a bat. I don't know what it was, but that was pretty interesting. But yeah, sunscreen and rosin being banned, I have a problem with, because also it's two natural things. Rosin is already allowed, and then sunscreen is just a thing you use naturally.
What if you don't want to get a sunburn out there? Are you not allowed? Do you have to get skin cancer? Like what?
Oh yeah, did you see that? I think there was a Jack Flaherty tweeted out an excerpt of an article, and it was like they're gonna monitor that sunscreen doesn't get used indoors or at night games.
Yeah. So like if it's a day game, I did
Yeah,
see that actually, but I mean like yeah, what if you legitimately wanted sunscreen and not get skin cancer?
right. Yeah, it's it's extremely it's extremely interesting how they're gonna be like, well, what about 4 o'clock games? Like that's
Yeah.
kind of a day game, but
But I mean, what if it's like a I mean, we're literally coming into the dog days of summer. Like at 7 o'clock, the sun is still up.
yeah, yeah,
Like and it
exactly.
could still and like there are still 7 o'clock games that have game time temperatures like in the mid 80s to even high 90s in some areas. Like what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, I get
just because, the sun is down from the fourth inning on doesn't mean that you still can't get burned in the first through third innings.
right, but I guess luckily the pitchers are usually in shadows by that point. But still,
I
it's still
guess.
kind of stupid. It's still kind of a stupid thing to enforce. I feel
It
like
is.
if if there was a uh, universal substance to use or combination to use, I feel like sunscreen and rosin would be the thing that would be the least performance enhancing and something that could just be like, yeah, you could just use it. It's fine. Like it might bump up your RPM a little bit, maybe by like 100, but it's not going to make like a 400, 500 RPM difference.
That's not going to be the difference between a Cy Young winner and a 5 ERA.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Uh, yeah, definitely not. What else? What else is
Well, there was the Tyler Glasnow stuff.
yeah, Tyler Glass now. I was thinking if there was anything we should address before that,
Before
but
that,
I think we got it all.
yeah, I mean just if you're going to take away anything from this, just know that this is Major League Baseball's failure. This isn't the Players Association's failure because they did what was not being enforced because the league wasn't going to do anything about it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there were complaints by only a few people, but there were complaints nonetheless, and nothing occurred. Uh, but one of the probably the biggest story of the week was Tyler Glasnow, who was having a spectacular season. Um, who probably was a top 5 pitcher in the American League so far this year. He had a partial UCL tear in his elbow, and after it was announced, he had a media a media conference of some sort where he stated, and it was from a tweet. So, and I forget who tweeted out the quote, but he was basically saying that. All right, I should actually pull up
Hmm.
the actual quote. All right, so we got more Tyler Glasnow quotes than I thought there was, but here's what Glasnow said, and this is from an ESPN.com article. It says, "I switched my fastball grip and my curveball grip," an animated Glasnow said on a video conference with reporters. "Quote: I had to put my fastball deeper into my hand and grip it way harder. Instead of holding my curveball at the tip of my fingers, I had to dig deeper into my hand." Later on, he said, "I was S, uh, choking the S out of all my pitches. S dash dash dash." Um, so yeah, obviously he had a tighter grip. What else did he say? Uh,
He said
waking up after the start, I was like, "This sucks." Glasnow recalled, "Something is weird here. That same feeling is persisting all week long. I go into my start Monday, and that same feeling is there. It pops, or whatever the hell happened to my elbow. I feel it. Something happened." And then later on, he said, "Quote: Do it in the off season. Give us a chance to adjust to it. But I just threw 80 innings. Then you tell me I can't use anything in the middle of the year. I have I have to change everything I've been doing the entire season. I'm telling you, I truly believe that's why I got hurt. And that was the headline quote there. Um, and I definitely I see all sides of this. What did you initially take away from this?
I mean, it didn't sound my initial reaction was like, could it have done that much? Because like a torn UCL is like a very serious injury that seems like it takes time. But as it kept going on, it became more believable. And I mean, like Tyler Glasnow is consistently throwing 100 miles an hour. He's one of the hardest throwing pitchers in the league. Like when you're throwing a ball that hard, that on that consistent of a basis, like it does make sense that if you have to adjust everything like that, that it is going to eventually hurt you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think he does make a good argument in the sense that this should be an off-season thing because no one likes to change their mechanics mid-season. Like he said, he had been throwing 80 innings, but I feel like, and my initial reaction was, you know, I feel like the lack of grip altered things, but there was a bigger issue at hand that wasn't grip. It wasn't like he had a perfectly fine
Hmm.
elbow or a perfectly fine just body in general, and then he had to grip uh, a regular baseball without anything, and then an issue occurred. I understand
Yeah,
that if you grip something tighter, it makes your ligaments tighter, and it makes it more prone to being torn, like Tyler Glasnow's UCL was. But and this made me go back to his 2019 injury where he had a forearm strain. And what do we all know about a precursor to elbow tears, UCL tears? That's forearm tightness. We all know about it. Usually, before a guy has announces he has like a UCL tear or elbow problems, there is forearm tightness. And Tyler Glass now had a forearm strain that took him out for 4 months in 2019. So that possibly could have been a precursor. And it's possible that having stickier stuff to work with prevented further injury from happening. But I think there were definitely problems at hand. But not having to grip the ball tighter definitely contributed to the injury, most likely.
yeah. I think I kind of said everything that was on my mind with this. Just, I mean, if you're throwing that hard and you have to change everything up, like if you're changing your mechanics, which it sounds like he was doing, like changing the grip, uh, doing all that, like that's not gonna end well for you. And like, Chris, you and I played baseball. You pitched. I can't imagine you needed to use any foreign substances, but like you weren't throwing 100 miles an hour. I don't think. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
I don't think you'd be doing this podcast if you were throwing 100 miles an hour.
no. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, probably everyone that would be listening has thrown baseballs before, and we've been fine with throwing baseballs. So there's that perspective of it, but also we've never had the perspective of having to throw anything. Yeah, we haven't thrown 90 miles per hour or even 100 miles per hour. So we don't know what it takes to control a baseball going that fast. But
Hmm.
I mean, also I think about like Tyler Glass now is 6'8". He has giant hands. It's That's also an equation. I don't have as big of hands as Tyler Glass now. I feel like maybe he could there's definitely two sides to look at it at, and then I you kind of have to see both sides. But you know it it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird because i I feel like someone, if you get a UCL tear just from not being able to grip a little bit, that's an issue. And it's not like it's that slippery a baseball, I don't think. But and yeah, Garrett Cole had that press conference last night where he was saying, it's so hard to grip the ball. I don't know if you saw it.
I watched bits and pieces, but I didn't see the full thing.
Yeah, it was just like a 1 minute 10-second video that was put out there. And he's it's definitely a probably a bit of an exaggeration just to try to get people on his side a little bit, but I kind of understand the perspective. If you're throwing that hard, it's definitely a lot harder to control it. But yeah. Anyway, what was there anything else in this sticky substance saga this week?
There was that Spader thread, which like I don't want to put too much stock into that right now because like I want to wait for another source, but like I wouldn't rule out any of the stuff he said being true.
Oh, the like video camera stuff, right?
Yeah, I know that wasn't sticky substance stuff, but that was also something that came up this week.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan Spader, he's what does he work for? He works for like Baseball America, not Baseball
No,
America.
not even. He kind of grew independently.
Yeah, he's like a
But like he wrote a
freelancer.
book, he made some appearances on MLB Network. He's not a reporter, but like I'm sure he has some sort of inside sources, but I don't want to put too much stock into it yet. Um, I don't want to assume anything is true from that, but I also wouldn't rule it out, I guess.
Yeah, for context, there was a thread of tweets where he said that where he named like 4 or 5 different teams that had these and multiple players that where it was egregious, where there were cameras to steal signs, just pretty much just like the Houston Astros in 2017. I mean, I definitely believe that this could be real, but it's all anonymous sourcing, and it seems kind of muddy right now.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to like if you're interested, go check it out at the Ace of Spader on Twitter. It's out there. There was a lot of teams that were called out, players that were called out, and I mean, like I said, I wouldn't rule out any of it being true, but I don't want to run with it right now.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's just one guy, and it's anonymous sources. Although we do like Ryan Spader, but it is just one person. If it was
And he's also not a. I mean, I guess maybe the fact that he's not a reporter gives him more leverage to put stuff like this out because it's not like
yeah,
he's not putting his job at risk necessarily.
right,
I guess.
yeah, and if
And it's not like
it
he's supposed to have a relationship with players. He's not supposed to go in there and talk to people. Like that's not his job.
yeah, exactly, and if some details are wrong, it's not going to blow up in his. He's not going to lose. Yeah, he's not going to lose a job or anything.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah,
I think that's all we need to say on that. I think we should just talk about the league and the CBA and stuff because this is going to play a major role. This winter is going to be an absolute hellfest with the CBA. There could be a lockout next year, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised because the league is so committed to just uh, getting their way and not letting the Players Association win. They will literally go to any lengths, and the Players Association just wants to play baseball and have a fair game and get what they deserve.
right, yeah,
This
yeah,
and like everyone that's listening should know you're on the player's side, you're not on the league side.
right, yeah, and it's becoming more glaringly obvious as details come out when it was the labor negotiations. Although a little later on, I was getting a little tired of the players, but still, it was kind of obvious what side you should be on. And
Hmm.
yeah, and it's pretty obvious what the league is doing with the foreign substance stuff. It's pitting players against each other, and yeah, it's pretty pretty weird. And
And it
yeah,
sounds
it's
like hitters don't have like a problem with like the sunscreen and rosin and stuff.
right. Yeah, and I think they've even been fine with pine tar. And by the way, it's going to be weird uh enforcing this stuff because, especially National League pitchers, you're what you touch when you touch a bat? You touch pine tar.
Yeah,
There's going to be pine tar on your hands. I guess it's not going to be like a Michael Pineda situation where you accidentally get it all over your neck or anything, but
yeah.
there's going to be pine tar on your hands, and what are you going to say to the umpire? And yeah, I guess going back to it, it's weird to give this much power to the umpires.
Mm-hmm. It is very weird. It's funny because we're in the talk of like abolishing umpires and robot umpires. Now where umpires probably matter more than they ever have.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no robot's going to
Except
be
for like in the 1800s when I was reading Brian Kenny's book, and he said like in the 1800s umpires had to be like jacked. Like umpires basically had to be linebackers because like fans would like come out of the stands just to fight players all the time and like fight each other, and players would fight each other, and umpires like literally had to be bouncers.
Oh my god, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing. That's hilarious.
Yep. So I mean this is the most umpires have mattered since then.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, now they're as Trevor Bauer said, judge, jury, and executioner. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, any foreign substance apparent, but it's not just foreign substances, it's anything that seems sticky. If it seems like you have something sticky,
Yeah.
then
And that seems very subjective.
yes. And
Like I really hope there isn't one guy that just goes like power hungry and is like, no, I don't like that. You're sweating too much.
if an umpire is getting yap from a pitcher about the strike zone a little bit,
It'll be
he
like,
can
you know
just be
what, you're sweating.
yeah.
Angel Hernandez is about to lead the league in ejections.
Right, yeah. It's like, oh, dude, I see that sweat and rosin, both
Mm-hmm.
legal substances. I think we're gonna eject you still because it's sticky, and I think that's spider tack. I
Didn't
don't think
Bauer
that.
have that video where he was like he was like holding the baseball up like this with like sweat and rosin or something like that?
Right, yeah. Yeah, yeah, he was
I'm
yeah,
trying to
he
notice
had
that
that
now.
he did that interview with the Dodgers pregame show where he did that where it's allegedly sweat and rosin. I don't know. It might not be 100% true, but I imagine, yeah, sweat is, a liquid that can get sticky, and rosin, when combined
How are
with
you gonna
that,
outlaw that? Like it's natural. It's a human thing.
right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I guess in the playoffs that's going to be harder to do because it's going to be harder to sweat. Although it is funny imagining just MLB pitchers before games putting themselves in sweatsuits and going into like saunas just
Mm-hmm.
to try to get a better grip.
Yeah, that's literally gonna be it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bunch of dehydrated pitchers. I guess it would affect them that way too, unfortunately. But yeah, just get a sweat going. All right. Anything more on this?
I think we got all of it.
Yeah, I think we did. I think we did. Um that's really all that's tackling the baseball world. Yeah, Glasnow went on the IL. Um something minor, but Max Scherzer went on the IL, but I think he's back June 22nd. So that's not really a big deal. And that was a groin issue, nothing to do with the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh deGrom, oh yeah, deGrom came out early again
Right.
after 8 strikeouts in 3 innings. I actually want to see what his F4 was on the day
On the
in
day
his
for three
three
innings.
innings. If I just go to yeah, June 16th to June 16th, I'm gonna be able to find it. But yeah, it was a right shoulder soreness, so it doesn't seem like anything too bad. But I remember, not to alarm anyone, but I remember Chris Sale's issue that started in 2018. He went on the IL with shoulder fatigue, and then about a year and a half later, he got Tommy John. But that's kind of the alarmist point of view. But yeah, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all right, let's check out Jacob deGrom's F4 on the day and 3 innings pitched. That's gonna be hilarious because he he had 8 strikeouts and no walks and no home runs, so that helps the FIP, which helps the F4.
Yeah, he does.
So Freddie Peralta led the day on F4 with 0.3. Tyler Mahle had 0.3, and Jacob deGrom had 0.3. So he
Which
ranked
is
third on the
amazing.
day.
He ranked 1/10 of a win per inning.
Yes. Right, yeah.
Wow.
So if he went on that pace for 162 innings, he'd have 16.2 F4.
Jacob deGrom became the first starting pitcher in Major League Baseball history with 8+ strikeouts and no walks in 3 or less innings pitched in a start.
Oh, that's good. That's good. How about that?
Yeah.
1 second.
He was
Yeah.
also the fifth pitcher to do it, including relief pitchers. The last one since Ron Davis for the Yankees in 1981. Also Rich Gossage, Ryan Duran, and Paul Fittery. Paul Fittery did it in 1914, and
Yeah,
that
the
was obviously as a
classic.
reliever. Yeah,
They
and of
called
course
him,
Jacob
they called him
deGrom.
the fireman,
Yeah, they did.
Ron Fittery.
They
What team
probably
was that for?
the Reds.
The Reds. The
Yeah,
1914 Reds. Everyone knew their bullpen was just fire.
exactly.
Their bullpen led in
Exactly.
innings pitched with 47 for the whole year. They were the original bullpenning club.
They were. People forget that.
Right.
Yeah, Jacob deGrom. 3 innings pitched, 8 strikeouts. Hilarious. Which I mean, I wish he went longer in his start, but oh well.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess the concern is this is the second game in a row where he's came out early and
It felt like,
went to
I
the
mean, yeah,
clubhouse.
it does feel like if he's throwing 100, as a starting pitcher that much, like it feels like eventually it's gonna catch up to him.
Yeah, and is like a pretty skinny and skinny individual.
Especially if he
That's
wasn't using any foreign substances.
right.
And I mean, I wonder if he was using like pine tar and he had to adjust.
Yeah, I mean potentially, but you look at Baseball Savant and his player breakdown, his spin rate was up by like 50 RPM. He's
That's
literally
true.
insane.
That's
But
true.
but if there was potentially a thing where he was using something sticky that I guess wasn't affecting his RPM at all, but he had to grip differently. That can be an issue if when you're 180 pounds as a starter throwing 100 miles per hour, like 15 times a game, literally like 15 times a game. It can catch up to you, unfortunately. The body isn't built for that. It's just it's tough, but it's fun to watch, but it might catch
Exactly.
up to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really really tough. And we did point out last episode his crazy how he's been able to incrementally increase his fastball velocity. It's I think in 2016 it was I think 94, and now it is 99.2 unless it's changed since last start. So his body is still probably getting used to his arm moving faster, but yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of concerned about this. I don't know what the concern level is with you.
Yeah, I'm concerned as well. Like baseball needs this guy to be healthy, and if that isn't the case, we're missing out pretty badly on basically the best season of all time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's having 10 start spans that are up there with Bob
Nobody,
Gibson.
with nobody.
Yeah, legit. Yeah. He had the yeah, he had the first 10 start span ever with 102 plus strikeouts and less than 5 earned runs allowed. That's something we found first thing we were able to find on StatHead during the episode last week. It was very easy to find. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, you don't want to see this at all. You don't want to see him injured at all. Like yeah, his appointment television, as you pointed out last episode, and the hitting has been a story as well this year. Him hitting what 423 with 6 RBI. That's
Yep.
become a story as well. Him carrying the offense. But
Yes.
yeah, deGrom. Yeah, it's tough. We're definitely rooting for the guy to come back as soon as possible with as healthy an arm as possible, but there's definitely concern there, unfortunately, for Jacob deGrom. But I mean, anything more we want to get into before how about that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we covered it all
Mhm.
thus far. All right. So now we get into the players to highlight for good and bad reasons. We'll start with good reasons. So now our Thursday, June 17th, 2021 edition of How About That? So who do you got to highlight for us today?
All right, so Chris, I'm gonna name you the top 5 relievers this season in F4 among qualifiers, and there's gonna be a blank, and I want you to try to guess who the blank is. So number 1 is Josh Hader, number 2 is Matt Barnes, number 3 is Craig Kimbrell, number 4 is Edwin Diaz, and number 5 is my How About That?
Um, Well, it's not Emmanuel Clace. I
No,
don't
it
think.
was one of my players to watch.
Oh, one of your players to watch. All right, that makes it a little easier.
Hmm.
Let me go to Baseball Reference. If I just need the list of teams in front of me, just to
Yeah.
jog my memory a little bit. Okay, a reliever, a reliever that was your player to watch. I'm trying to think here. Trying to fill time here. Dang, I'm trying to think. It's tough to remember all the players to watch. Is it Mike Myers by any chance?
It is not Mike
Mayers?
Myers. It is not Mike Myers. No.
Yeah, I forget how to pronounce the name.
Yeah.
Um, what league is it? AL or NL?
American League.
American League. All right,
Yep.
American League. American League. Um, it might be a Ray, or I don't know. I forget who you highlighted for the Rays.
I'm just gonna. Can I just say it?
JB Wendelken.
No.
Okay. Oh, that
It is.
those are the relievers I remember. Okay, go ahead and shout it out.
It is Scott Barlow. From the
Scott
Kansas City
Barlow.
Royals. Yeah. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing one of our players to watch prove us right. And that's exactly what Scott Barlow has been doing this year. He has a 1.85 ERA with a 1.84 FIP. He is 12.71 strikeouts per 9 on the year and 0 home runs allowed in 34 innings pitched after he allowed 4 last year in 30 innings pitched. And the biggest difference between his 2020 season and his 2021 has been the production that he's gotten on his fastball. Last year, hitters had a 324 batting average against his fastball with a 338 x batting average. And they also had a 649 slugging with a 679 expected slugging. That's all pretty bad. And this year, it has gone down to 250 batting average with a 261 expected batting average and a 350 slugging down to a 424 expected slugging. And Chris, I want you to do a little something for the YouTube watchers out there. I want you to go to Scott Barlow's Baseball Savant page and look at the contour on his fastball location in 2021 and in 2020 and look at the difference.
Contour. All right, this
Yeah,
is really
it's I can show you how to do it if you're not sure.
yeah, I'm just going to Scott Barlow on Savant right now. This font's a little slow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, Scott Barlow, 1.85 ERA, 1.84 FIP. We're gonna take a look at his fastball contouring. And yeah, YouTube watchers, we got We got the screen shared right now.
And first of all, look at his percentiles because they're all pretty excellent. I didn't put them in, but yeah, very good on the strikeout percentage, the chase rate, the xWOBA, the xERA, the x batting average, the x slugging, the fastball velocity, the whiff percentage, all excellent. So anyway, this is the contour. I want you to look at the fastball in 2021. Kind of up around the upper part of the zone for right-handers, down in the middle of the zone, also a little bit outside. Now look at 2020, right in the middle.
Yeah, that's
See
actually
that?
that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, that's the difference between a 649 slugging and a 350 slugging.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, he's it's a little less red in the middle there
Exactly.
for
So
sure.
that is Scott Barlow.
Yeah, great analysis there.
How about that?
We get that's what baseball's fun is great for. We get the location,
Mhm.
those location graphs, and usually they're not that they're not that disparate, but in the case here it was actually pretty noticeable. All right, my how about that is a guy who, I mean, I guess now he's had an overall like somewhat above average season, but he's really turned it up in the last 2 weeks. In his last 13 games, he's hitting 411 with an 1126 OPS. He is JP Crawford of the
Yeah,
Seattle Mariners. I think you highlighted him. I forget if he was a how about that or slightly alarming last year.
I definitely
But
did talk about him. I think he was a slightly alarming because he didn't have an extra base hit until like a month into the season.
right, yeah. He has been pretty hot in the last 13 games, as I said, 411 average, 1126 OPS. In this span, his hard hit rate is 48.7%. The MLB average is 35.3, so he is well above that. And his barrel rate is 12.2%, and while the MLB average is 6.5%. So as a guy who's not known for power, he's barreling it up pretty well in the past 13 games, and also in his last 13 games. In the time span, he ranks third in batting average and third in FWAR. So he's been one of the best players in the league in all of Major League Baseball in the last 2 weeks, and maybe something to look at. Maybe he will be able to continue this. And he was a guy who was the second overall pick in one of the MLB drafts, so maybe someone that could fill out his potential that the Phillies actually believed that he had before they traded him for Gene Segura.
That's right.
But now we move from the highs to the lows.
Oh, you gotta give him a how about that?
Oh yeah, JP Crawford.
How about that?
Shout out to him.
He was like a top rated prospect when he came up too.
Yeah, like top 5 or something.
Mm-hmm.
He was very highly touted, and he's always had the defense, that's for sure. But offense has been up and down. But right now, it is on the up and up. Now we move from the highs to the lows, where we're talking about players or subjects that have just been underperforming. So now for our June 17th, 2021 edition of
Slightly alarming.
So who has been underperforming on your radar lately?
You talked about a former Phillies prospect. I'm talking about a former Philadelphia or a current Philadelphia Philly. I'm looking at Reese Hoskins as my slightly alarming because he's been struggling lately. He ended a 12-game hit streak on June 6th, and since then he is 1 for his last 36. And that one was a home run that he hit last night off of Clayton Kershaw on Wednesday night. So he was actually 0 for 31, and he broke that. And in that time, he has 12 batted balls that had an exit velocity below 92 miles an hour and a launch angle above 30 degrees. Which most of the time that happens, that's a weak flyout, and that's what all of them have been. He's 0 for 12. And those 12 batted balls with all those, it leads the majors over that sample. No one has more essentially pop ups with those metrics. than Reese Hoskins, and it's kind of shows why he's won for his last 36. Because you're not going to get hits when you're popping the ball up.
Right. Yeah. Having a tough time. Reese Hoskins.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, so Hoskins has been struggling. And it's more of a short term
Yeah,
thing.
this segment is called slightly alarming for a reason.
Yeah, but to segue, my slightly alarming has been bad pretty much the whole season, but I didn't want to address him earlier on because there was a major discrepancy in ERA and expected ERA. But now, you know, actually I've been paying attention a little less to expected ERA now and more to expected WOBA because uh, this is actually an aside, but the thing with expected ERA is it's directly coincided with expected WOBA in a way. That's why like every time you look at percentiles, it's the exact same percentile every time. And I think it's because so if you do well, or I guess if you do well with runners in scoring position, then the expected ERA is like higher than your regular ERA, but that's just because uh you're doing well with runners in scoring position. So I don't know. It's yeah, it's not really based on it's based on what you do overall. But anyway, that's an aside. Uh but has just been more and more bad that I finally have to address this guy's struggles and not blame it on bad luck. Dylan Bundy, he was someone who I believe got Cy Young votes last year. And so far this year, overall, he has a 6.98 ERA and 59 and a third innings pitched. And in his last six starts, in his last six starts, 23 and a third innings pitched, 11.57 ERA, 7.92 FIP, and 9 home runs allowed, which is 3.5 home runs per nine in his last six starts. And
Yeah, that's brutal.
since May 8th, which is when the six start span started, his ERA is the second worst out of 152 pitchers with 20 innings pitched. His FIP and his home runs per nine are the worst out of those 152 pitchers with 20 innings pitched. So ERA second worst, FIP and home runs per nine the worst in this six start span. And there's kind of a bigger issue at hand as well. In his last start versus Oakland, along with allowing 7 earned runs in 2 and a third innings pitched, his four-seam fastball RPMs went down 183 RPM, and his curveball RPMs went down 197 RPM. So it's been bad for Dylan Bundy, and it might be getting worse because he is not going to be having as good a grip on the ball as he once was for whatever reason. But his RPMs
That
are
is very
down
bad.
pretty significantly. So Dylan Bundy, for multiple reasons. Oh, what's the deal? Things
Is it
not
lagging?
playing.
Oh no, it doesn't want it to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll kill the app or whatever. Dylan Bundy.
Slightly alarming.
That was weird.
If you look at this is interesting. If you look at his average spin rate on all of his pitches per season, the lowest it's ever been was 2020, and the highest it's ever been by far was 2021. So he might be a guy who's better off not relying on spin rate.
Yeah, I guess potentially, yeah. So maybe that's a thing that could positively affect him. I don't know.
Which, to be fair, his lowest that lowest spin rate of his well, I guess since 2016, it's still 2275 RPM, which was 79th percentile. But I mean, the lowest spin rate was the best year that he had.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I wonder
Mhm.
what changed possibly, but I did notice he's someone that, like, percentile wise with fastball velocity, it's very low, but with fastball spin, it's very high. So I imagine he's been using something for a while. I mean,
Yeah.
2017, he was 95th percentile in spin rate, and I feel like, spider tack wasn't being really used back then.
Yeah, it may have been a more recent thing.
Yeah, but yeah, as far back as 2017, he was one of the best spinners of the baseball, I guess you could say. But yeah, that's a thing to pay attention to. Obviously, we need to pay attention to all the pitchers pretty much, and look at what's been going on. Every big time starter you're looking at is baseball savant player breakdowns, seeing what's happening. But yeah, that's those were our players to highlight. Now we get into the preview of the weekend ahead. The obvious series to watch is definitely Astros White Sox, as they are two teams. Houston is 2.5 out of their division. The White Sox have the best record in the American League, or the Major League Baseball. White Sox have the best record in Major League Baseball. And this is being played in Houston. So Houston's got the home field advantage, while the White Sox have a record advantage. The Chicago just won 2 out of 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays, who are probably the biggest challenger in the American League thus far this year. On Friday, you have Luis Garcia versus Carlos Rodon. Saturday, you have probably a matchup that Daniel is going to get into. Two guys with ERAs below 1.6. So that's
I
going to
was
be
going to get into it.
that's going to be very interesting. And then on Sunday, another good matchup: Lance McCullers versus Dallas Keuchel. Two guys that, I mean, not exactly similar, but Keuchel coming back to Houston. I feel like, yeah, Keuchel's coming back to Houston for probably the first time. This is probably Keuchel's first time since
17,
2018
yeah.
coming back to Houston. I mean, he was only on the Braves for half the year. I don't think they went to Houston in that time frame.
I
And
don't think so.
he definitely didn't go to Houston last year. So the return of Dallas Keuchel to the Astros on Sunday against Lance McCullers, who, by the way, did not hit the Rangers on Tuesday. That was
So there
very
will be no more
unfortunate.
no-hitters for the rest of the year.
Yes, calling it. He was 25 outs away and unfortunately gave up a single.
Yeah, he was. I mean, when the second out of the game was recorded, we were thinking like, is this it?
Yeah,
Then he got into the heart of the Rangers order. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone started to be quiet about it once that second inning hit,
Yeah.
or once that second out was recorded. And then so that's the obvious series to watch. And another series I'll address is something to watch, like, let's see where this team kind of stands, sort of thing. The Reds have won 11 of their last 13, 6 straight. They're going to
Yeah.
San Diego. So we'll see where they stand. And I think the Padres have actually been struggling a little bit. So a team that's supposed to be good versus a team that's supposed to be kind of mediocre, but are trending in pretty opposite directions. Kind of a clash to see what will go on in that series. And that's a 3-gamer, and no particular pitching matchups outside of, I think, Saturday or Sunday. I'm trying to see. Outside of Sunday, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's a series to watch because it's two teams kind of going in opposite directions who had kind of opposite expectations. But anyway, day by day matchups. What do you got?
So there's two good matchups that are going on tonight. The first one is Zach Gallen versus Kevin Gausman. I believe he's coming back from injury, or he at least maybe did recently. And the Diamondbacks are still looking for that first road win in almost 2 months. But Kevin Gausman baseman's going to be Duff. He actually just took his first loss of the season in a doubleheader against Washington. Not that it was his fault. He didn't pitch bad. The offense just didn't score a lot for him. That's going on at 3:45 p.m. Eastern time. So that one's a little earlier. And then tonight at 9:30 on YouTube, you got Matt Manning making his Major League debut against Shohei Ohtani in the Tigers-Angels game. That's going to be a good one. Matt Manning has been a top prospect for a while. He's finally getting his time, and he's facing Shohei Ohtani in his debut. No particular great pitching matchups on Friday to look at, but I'd say some individuals to look at. James Caprillion from the A's. He's going to be going up against the New York Yankees. He's 3-1 with a 2.51 ERA. He's been pretty excellent to start out his major league career. You also have Jose Barrios going against the Rangers. You have Carlos Rodon versus Luis Garcia. Honestly, that might be the best matchup of the day. You also have Corbin Burns going. And you have Trevor Bauer. Watch for that spin rate. And I'd say that's about it for individuals on Friday. And then on Saturday, the best matchup, without a doubt, is Lance Lynn versus Framber Valdez in White Sox Astros. A lot of good pitching matchups in that series. You also have Walker Buehler going. You have Chris Bassett going. He's been very good recently. Pablo Lopez will be going against the Red Hot Cubs. And I'd say that's about it for individuals. Dinelson Lamet also against Vladimir Gutierrez, who's been very good for the Reds. And then on Sunday, you have Taijuan Walker going, who was excellent his last time out. You have, of course, Keuchel coming back to Houston. You have Casey Mize going. He's been excellent recently. The matchup of the day for sure is Luis Castillo versus Yu Darvish. Castillo was a slightly alarming of Chris's, but he's actually picked up the pace recently. He's a 2.28 ERA over his last 4 starts. He'll be going up against Yu Darvish, and that's about it for pitching matchups, I'd say.
One thing I forgot to address on Thursday, because Astros White Sox is a 4-gamer. We have a kind of an above replacement radio meme matchup. Jose Urquidy versus Dylan Cease.
Oh yes, that entire series is great.
Yeah. So yeah, I forgot it's a 4-gamer. I always click onto Friday's games because on Thursday you don't know what's finishing up or what's going to be a weekend series. So I forgot to address that. But yeah, 4-game series, and Thursday you got Urquidy versus Cease. Fun stuff. At 8:10 Eastern time, 7:10 Central. But that's the end of the episode. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, or want to see Scott Barlow's fastball contours, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is called Above Replacement Radio. And if you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta, and follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. And we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Monday, where we are going to be talking about all the happenings of Major League Baseball once again. See you then.
This conversation is over.